We are talking Dead Story from 2017, and this is a low-budget haunted house movie. It focuses on a couple who have bought a dream house out in the country somewhere, and they decide to move there. The wife is a photographer, and the husband is some type of businessman that works in the city. And they're visited by a couple of friends who come and celebrate their new house and stuff. And the one of the friends basically tells them a ghost story that is apparently based in this very house, where this house has had a murder in it. And this somewhat freaks out the wife of the owners of this new house. And she starts having dreams and visions of something going on. Now the husband investigates, and there's no apparent any record of anything happening. And but she continues to see spooky stuff. Some of which is gets more and more overt. At the same time, she's getting very lonely and bored at home because the husband is out working all the time, working long days, and she's stuck at home only working every so often, being a photographer. Not to mention that the husband's mother is seemingly very overbearing and doesn't really like this wife, and she's having problems with her, let alone a haunted house. Now, what will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's talk what works with Dead Story. So this is a low budget movie, and in all honesty, it's a very bog standard haunted house movie. This movie is going to be, or this review is going to be very much down the middle, I have to say. There's nothing really outstanding in this film, but at the same time, it's so just generic. It's never a truly bad film either, if that makes sense. So can we say anything either way? I mean, I will say I think the actual makeup effects, considering the budget of this ghost, are quite impressive. I mean, I quite liked the look of this ghost. It's nothing you haven't seen before. It looks like a typical Japanese style Asian ghost, long dark hair, whited out face, that sort of thing. But we do get a few decent looks at it, and it looks again fairly good for the low budget that we have here. It looks a little bit like corporeal, but again, I'm a little bit forgiving due to the nature of the fact that this is such a low budget movie. But yeah, the makeup looks pretty good. There's a couple of okay sequences where I think it's shot relatively well and looks freaky for the low budget B movie that this is. I think the location, it's all looks reasonable. It's this large house. It's out the way, so you get a sense of isolation in this film. I think the cast aren't fantastic, but they're not offensively bad. The story is your really textbook haunted house style movie. So there's nothing really here. I think the only really thing I would say is the ghost effects are fairly okay for a low budget movie. Everything else is either just about okay or a little bit weak, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it's it's like this is going to be a real short review because there's very much this is very much down the line. This movie. Can I say anything that is specifically wrong with it? It's just so generic. I mean, it's just this is. I always think this has got some writers on it, and how have they written it? It just seems like such a just paste and copy, or copy and paste of such a generic story from any other film. I mean, the acting is not the best, but it's not terrible. I would say there are a few minor flubs here and there. But again, it's a low budget movie. I'm not overly concerned about a few errors in filming and things like that. There are a couple of, I think, more wasted opportunities, I suppose. One of the things I found a bit more interesting is more of a dramatic element that was kind of left over, really, and the fact that this husband is working such long hours. He says he works a 12-hour day plus the commute. and he's coming home and his wife's saying she's bored and kind of like, she feels lonely. And I'm thinking, man, like, you're working such a long day, that's got to be like, so like, just find something to do. So I kind of, for me, that was kind of like, that's an interesting dynamic element. It's like, I can kind of understand the frustration. I think the film wants us to feel sorry for the wife, but I have to say, I kind of was sympathizing with the guy. I was like, man, do you know what? I totally feel you. That would like annoy the shit out of me. It's like, get a hobby, get a job that kind of like, where you can go out the house. They don't have kids, so it's like not like she's not tied to the house or anything like that. But again, it's one of those things that FO is introduced just to kind of create tension. It's not really much is done with it, but I think it was an interesting kind of element that was sort of introduced, and then again, nothing kind of really just sort of done really. There are a couple of character moments, just like when the mother clearly doesn't like the wife, and like it makes it very, very obvious, and the husband's like, oh no, she does not like you. It's like, come on, are you blind? And there's like a weird sort of lack of mythology in this film. Like, if there's a haunted house, if this ghost truly exists, which, it does, we have no information. I mean, it turns out that the story that the guy told was just BS, but we have no context about who this ghost is, why it's doing it, what the circumstances that led to this haunting and things like that. Just absolutely no kind of information at all. And the last thing I would say is this movie maybe is a little dull because it doesn't have a huge amount of scares. And one strange thing it does, in a lot of horror films, you'll find that there's a scene at the beginning of the movie which is kind of your initial scare. And quite often it's like a unrelated victim, or it's like a kind of fake out jump scare or something like that. You'll have this like little scare at the beginning before the kind of the story starts with our main characters. What this film does, it actually just has a scene at the beginning of the movie, which is a scene that happens again in the middle of the film, which is weird because at that point it just repeats the same scene, but we haven't obviously seen our characters at the beginning of the film, and then it kind of goes back in time and then starts the story. It's like you just shown the same scene twice out of order. I thought it was like meant to be a different couple or something first of all, but no, it's exactly the same. There's a little bit of CGI blood, but again, I'm forgiving of that sort of stuff. It's such a generic film. I don't think it's a terrible film. It's just so unremarkable. It's just something you've seen before every sort of time. But I do think that this lack of originality and lack of any kind of real kind of like memorable scenes or things like that does knock it down to a sort of a negative review for me. But I don't think it's terrible. It's just kind of very unremarkable. It might seem like a bad review, but there's nothing really to elevate this. But it's just very, very kind of generic at the end of the day. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.